Today we're going to talk about Teela Goremane. Hey, welcome, I'm LeilaFox. Today's lore story video is going to be for Teela Goremane. Teela is a legendary orc champion in Raid Shadow Legends. Now, what's interesting with Teela is she also happens to be one of the ones that is kind of on the low end, right? You know, she's one of the ones that when people tend to summon her, they're usually not very happy with her. But we are going to get into her lore story, and before we do that, let's check out the orc faction lore as a whole. Orcish tribes maintain a tenuous hold in pockets from Durham Forest to the Deadlands. Initially bred as warrior slaves, orcs do what they must to ensure their survival and will pick off unwitting travelers for their coin, blood, and bones. Fearful of persecution by the men of Karok, they have sided with the Queen of Arabia. Let's get into the lore story for Teela Goremane from the Telerian Lore Book of Champions. After their defeat at the hands of the elves and the nascent human kingdoms, the orcs fled eastwards, fracturing into warring clans and tribes. Much like the surviving barbarian cultures, these do not form a unified society. Some orcs are merciless raiders, all too happy to prey on the weak. Others strive to follow the ancient codes of honor and desire to rebuild the legacy of their people. Teela, who is yet to earn her moniker Goremane, had been born into the former kind of clan. Life in the den of raiders and slavers is often brutal and short, and Teela had to learn to survive from the moment she took her first steps. Where more fortunate warriors were pampered and trained, she had to fight for scraps, steal, nurse her wounds with what meager supplies she had. It was a hard life. But it made Teela strong. Strong and vicious enough to put down warriors twice her size and earn her place at the head of countless raiding parties. Her reputation grew with every successful foray, but it was a stroke of strange luck that had truly thrust the orc warrior to glory. Her raiding party came across a caravan transporting a scholar from Arabia and overwhelmed the guards without trouble. When the terrified elf pleaded for his life, he mentioned a weapon of great importance, something that had apparently set out to find in the first place. Though not usually one to show mercy, Teela agreed to release the scholar in exchange for everything he knew. It was thus she learned about the Hexdrinker Smiter, an ancient weapon buried somewhere within the far western reaches of the Deadlands. Chancing that the scholar's information was true, Teela led her raiders on a long march across the dunes. The map recovered from the caravan guided them to a burrow that predated even the barbarian tribes that controlled the area. It had not been left unguarded, of course, and the attempt to breach it called several scores of skeleton warriors to life. Teela and her fellow orcs fought tooth and nail and even pushed the undead back into the burrow. It was then a revenant spirit burst from its sarcophagus, cutting down several brutish orc warriors with contemptuous ease. It would have continued to rampage were it not for Teela's ferocious counterattack. She charged the revenant, overwhelming it with a barrage of slashes and cuts. Though she herself had been wounded, pain would not keep her away from the foe. Teela and the undead warrior exchanged blow for blow, neither finding a critical advantage until the orc lost her weapon and was forced to fight like a cornered animal. Fortunately, she was good at that. Throwing herself at the undead, Teela managed to snap its ancient bones and wrest the smiter from its deathly grip. It was only with the slash of its shadow-cloaked blade that the spirit was finally struck down and dissipated into nothing with one final howl of fury. Teela stood over nothing but scattered ashes. Her hair had gone white as snow, save from her own blood staining the end. No matter how she tried, that dirty crimson never faded away. But it was a small price to pay for her trophy, for the smiter possessed many powerful enchantments and allowed her to weaken her foes and even allow her allies to feed on the life force stolen away by the blade. With such a mighty weapon in hand, the legend of Teela Goremane had truly begun. Alright, that was the lore story for Teela, and I'm sure most of you guys are going to agree with me is that the lore story is actually much better than the champion actually is herself. There's a couple things I really like about this story, is in particular when we talk about her abilities, is they do a really good job pretty much tying her abilities and her weapon into the lore story. In the lore story, it talks about how there was this Hex Weaver Smiter that she was going to be searching for, and that's actually what they have on her A1, is that she attacks and steals a random buff, also has a chance of stealing another if the target's under 2 or more buffs. And they also make mention of how her allies receive healing off of the blade. And so we pretty much kind of see that on her A2 with the Pyre Strike, is that there's an HP burn, but then also the continuous heal buff on all the allies. So I think that is something fun that they added into the story, is they added in how this weapon that she was hunting after, how that kind of fits in with her abilities and into the lore as well. They talk about Teela pretty much having a rough life and pretty much having to fight for everything that she wants, and kind of sadly she kind of has a rough life in Raid Shadow Legends as well too. But guys, I would love to know what you think. Leave me some comments down below. What do you think for the story for Teela Goremane? Do you think it's better than she is as well? And hey, you know what, fingers crossed, maybe someday they'll actually give her a pretty good buff. Leave me some comments down below and let me know what you think. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, check out some more videos up here in the playlist on the top right.